is a political problem.
No, and it's a religious problem as well, and it's a religious problem.
In your view, Douglas?
No, in the view of a lot of people, including the people who carry out acts of terror, who say they do it in the name of religion.
In this debate you're about to watch, Douglas Murray faces off with stubborn leftist Mehdi Hassan on controversial issues. Let's dive in.
Is it right that MPs...
Hey Veracity, welcome back to the channel. It's a girl VeraMoore and I'm back with another reaction video. Today guys, I'm going to be reacting to Murray's provocative debate, and we have Islamists. Douglas Murray obliterates Muslim opponent in immigration debates. Muslims and immigration, like gosh. Can't wait to dive into the video. Before we get started, we have some amazing people watching us for the first time. If you're new to the channel, I am Vera. I do reaction videos. If it's something that you love, why not join Veracity? Hit the subscribe button below, turn on the post notification bell so that you can always be the first person to know whenever any video drops. And that's guys, let's go.
tonight chose to deny prisoners the vote.
I don't agree. The man who brought this case to Strasbourg, John Hurst, was sent to prison for bludgeoning an old lady to death. The European Court of Human Rights decided his human rights have been violated by not having the right to vote. I think he violated every imaginable right of the woman who he bludgeoned to death and still isn't sorry for. I think...
Yes.
Solid from Douglas. But there's more from him.
I think that this case points to the terrible thing that is happening in Strasbourg, which is that activist judges and ambulance-chasing lawyers are creating a situation where the ordinary human rights of ordinary people are routinely being trumped by the unordinary rights of people who have behaved appallingly in society.
That is another solid point by Douglas. Now hear this.
There is a serious democratic problem when something which has no support in the House of Commons, very little support, I think, in the country, and something which makes the Prime Minister sick is nevertheless forced on this country. So I think there's a second reason why this is a good thing, which is it has shown that our Parliament remains sovereign and can override and ignore decisions from Strasbourg. That is a very important precedent.
I couldn't agree more. Next, the topic shifts to multiculturalism, particularly the comments made by then Prime Minister David Cameron on multiculturalism.
Do you agree with David Cameron that multiculturalism in the UK has failed?
Let's hear from Douglas.
Yes, I think he was right. And I think we should start this by just reminding ourselves what multiculturalism is not. Multiculturalism is not multiracialism. It isn't pluralism. For years, the multicultural policy has been able to glide along in part because of that misunderstanding. Because of the misunderstanding that when you talk about multiculturalism as a policy, what you're talking about is solely immigration or multiracialism or so on.
Douglas's response here stands out for its clarity, especially as he points out that there's a difference between multiculturalism and multiracialism. Let's now hear how he defines multiculturalism.
As a policy, multiculturalism is the following. It is the idea that there is effectively no such thing as British society or British culture. There are simply different communities which you're born into. If, for instance, you're born into a community from an Asian background, you will be treated by government throughout your life as a member of the Asian community. If you're born into some other racial or religious grouping, you'll be regarded in that way. And that anything in that group could be different from what the norm in society.
I couldn't agree more.
He goes on. Let me give one quick example I gave in an article yesterday in the Wall Street Journal. It's been quite commonly known in recent years, for instance, that girls of Pakistani origin have, at the age of 16, been taken out of British schools and married to older men. Now, if a white girl of 16 over recent decades had been married against her will to some randy old pervert who wanted to have his way with her, the state would have stepped in. It would have rightly said that that was an outrage. But, lo and behold, 16-year-old girls of Asian origin disappearing from their schools, nobody wanted to mention it because it could be thought to be racist.
Wow, what a stunning example that is by Douglas. But, as we all know, Douglas doesn't shy away from saying things as they are.
The idea was that there are different values for different people in society, and there is nothing more divisive than that, and I'm glad that David Cameron has called time on it.
At this point, Douglas's opponent, Mehdi Hassan, is brought into the discussion.
In answer to the question, I think he's wrong. I don't agree with Douglas's definition at all. I believe I'm a product of multiculturalism, not just multiracialism. My father came to this country in 1966. He used to write lots of letters to newspapers with his views on the stories of the day, and he used to get dog litter through his letterbox in response.
Hassan goes on to say this as Douglas watches on.
That 45 years later, in my view, 45 years later, his son can sit here on Question Time with David Dimbleby and a Conservative minister and say that I'm a proud Briton and a proud Asian and a proud Muslim. I think is a testimony to the success of multiculturalism in this country, which is definitely not far too easy.
Stay tuned. The best part of the debate is yet to come. But before we explore more of Murray's powerful commentary and why his voice is so essential in today's world, please like and subscribe to our channel. And hit the notification bell for more related content. Now, back to Douglas.
Douglas Murray, do you want to come back on what Mehdi Hassan said?
Well, look, I mean, both of the sort of left-wing people on the panel tonight, Mehdi and Jackie Smith, if you can still call Labour members left-wing, but both of them have done the same thing the left always does on this. You try to have a discussion about the failure of multiculturalism, and you have the BNP thrown in by Mehdi. Told, well, the BNP member congratulated him, at least concede, Mehdi, all sorts of crazy and horrible and disgusting people can jump on a bandwagon without meaning that it's the wrong thing to have said.
Douglas exposes a common tactic employed by the left when discussing multiculturalism, throwing in comments made by the British Nationalist Party, a far-right British fascist political party in the United Kingdom that Nick Griffin led from September 1999 to July 2014. Douglas argues that the left uses this to distract from the real issues and shut down meaningful conversations. Earlier, Hassan made this remark referring to Nick Griffin, Le Pen's daughter, and the leader of the EDL in Luton.
Let's look at the reaction to David Cameron's speech. Nick Griffin said it was a provocative speech. When Nick Griffin says your speech is provocative, you know you're in trouble. The daughter of the leader of the French National Front, Jean-Marie Le Pen, said she wanted to congratulate David Cameron on his speech. And the leader of the EDL in Luton said, he's saying what we're saying, he knows what his base is saying. So when I hear reactions like that, I do worry about such speech.
Now, back to Douglas. He delivers a knockout blow by dismissing the attempts to shut down the debate on multiculturalism with fear tactics.
I mean, a couple of, 100 people marching in Luton does not mean the Prime Minister of Britain should not be making a speech about a very serious matter. And this is the problem. The debate by the left is always attempted to be shut down by associating it with far-right extremist and racist groups instead of having a frank and honest discussion.
Douglas has just exposed the left's reliance on associating the debate with far-right extremists and revealed their lack of substance and commitment to genuine dialogue. And now, the debate between Douglas and Hassan is about to get heated.
We didn't get into this, but one of my other objections to David Cameron's speech is the idea, you want to give a speech on multiculturalism, give a speech on multiculturalism. You want to give a speech on counter-terrorism, give a speech on counter-terrorism. Don't pretend they're one and the same thing. Don't offend our intelligence. Terrorism is not a cultural problem, terrorism is a political problem.
No, and it's a religious problem as well, and it's a religious problem.
In your view, Douglas?
No, in the view of a lot of people, including the people who carry out acts of terror, who say they do it in the name of religion.
Both men were at each other's throats, but Douglas was finally able to get a point across.
He's willing to talk about foreign policy, as would David Cameron be. But you cannot keep on pretending that there is no religious component to the terrorism, because there is.
I thought you said it was cultural.
No,
Culture and religion is not the same.
Stick with religion. You're saying there is no religious component.
I'm saying there is a religious component. I'm saying it's not a cultural component. The people who blew themselves up on the London Underground were not people who couldn't speak English or didn't go to secular schools.
That's the tragedy of it.
Well, then don't say it's a cultural problem.
No, but you're
don't pretend that forced marriage.
Because maybe you're doing what you're doing is that you are ignoring.
I have to say that I am quite confused by Mehdi Hassan's statement. I mean, he just did a little bit of self-contradiction. But let's now move on to the next topic of the debate.
Could the introduction of democracy to Egypt have the effect of destabilising the Middle East and lead to a string of anti-Western extremist Arab states in the region?
The first thing is that to get back to the question, I mean, the issue of democracy across the region. Some of us have been arguing for many years that Arab states, Muslim majority countries, have the same desire for democracy as the rest of the world. You used to hear people say about the Eastern Bloc, the Eastern Europeans can't cope with democracy. Lo and behold, they could.
Douglas makes a good point here about democracy in Muslim-majority countries. History showed that Eastern Europeans embrace democracy. So are we underestimating the desire for democracy in Muslim-majority countries, just as we did in Eastern Europe? Meanwhile, his observation about democracy extends beyond Eastern Europe to South America.
Used to hear it said about South America, the same thing. South Americans somehow can't cope with democracy. Lo and behold, they could. And the same thing is becoming clear across the Arab and Muslim world. The Lebanese Druze leader, Walid Jumblat, said that the sight in 2005 of Iraqis going to the polls for the first time would have in time a seismic effect in the region.
His insight about democracy in South America and its parallel in the Arab and Muslim world is compelling.
Do you see Mubarak, as Mehdi Hassan said, as our person, the West's person in Egypt?
No.
Or do you think that we should have...
I think it's equally patronising to the people of Egypt to assume they have had no role in their own country. However, the West has had a very complex and I think unfortunate, regrettable situation in recent years of thinking that stability and the pursuit of stability in the region was the most important thing.
Douglas, again, makes a valid point here that it is dismissive to assume that people in Egypt don't have a hand in the direction their country is in. The emphasis on stability in the West has covered the importance of local involvement and democratic aspirations.
There is a problem, though, and it has to be flagged up to go back to the question, which is the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood, if it didn't have Muslim in the name, would be being described at the moment as a fascist political party. It has its roots in fascism. It is an extremist organisation. Its offshoot, the Hamas in the Gaza, when it got into power, immediately killed its opposition, and it hasn't had another election.
He brings up quite a controversial statement. It is important to acknowledge Douglas's observation about the Muslim Brotherhood. He goes on to shut up Mehdi Hassan here.
It was just another one announced.
The Muslim Brotherhood is just like a cult. It's like a cult, yeah. They kill people, they are aggressive, they are... In fact that Hamas is a terrorist group. They're out there, they are killing people, and this whole thing is just really, really messed up, honestly. Oh gosh. You know what, let's go on.
July the 9th this year, there was meant to be another election in the Palestinian areas. The Hamas have said no. They are a one-vote, once political party, and we can't be so naive to think we can't. No. They cannot be so naive as to think that the Brotherhood, if they came to power in Egypt, will be anything other than a disaster for the region. Right.
He continues.
It is very unwise for leaders like William Hague, David Cameron and Barack Obama to be saying who they would like to run Egypt. It's a choice for the Egyptian people, and they should remain silent. Peace treaties, including the Treaty of Peace that has kept peace between Egypt and Israel for 3 decades now. And this is a very, very important thing, because if the Brotherhood comes in and says, as their leaders have said in recent days, that they will immediately block the Suez Canal and start a war with Israel, then we are collectively going to be, and the Middle East is going to be, in serious trouble.
This shows the necessity for any future Egyptian government, including if the Muslim Brotherhood were to come to power, to uphold crucial diplomatic commitments for national stability.
How can you order a new government to abide by a treaty made by Mubarak?
In the following way, by saying that by using soft power, by encouraging the country to go in a certain way, by making it clear that for Egypt to become a normalised country, it has to have a normal government.
His response shows the importance of diplomatic approaches in promoting regional stability.
That I think that it would be regrettable for the Egyptian people, for the region and the international community if an extremist organisation like the Brotherhood took control of Egypt, did what it did in the Gaza, murdered the opposition and never had another election. I hope you would join me in regretting that as well.
Douglas is clearing his stance about the potential harm that would be caused if the Muslim Brotherhood gained control in Egypt.
I say it because it's always true that this last government left the biggest budget deficit in the developed world.
I have to say, it's nice to see the people of Bristol have such fire in their belly for this question. But I have to say, I wouldn't like to see the household accounts of some of you who booed Francis Moore just now.
His quick wit and sharp observation skills are shown as he effectively turns the tables on the audience by pointing out the irony of their reaction.
I mean, it's not, as it were, debatable whether or not this country's run out of money. It's not as if debatable whether or not the previous government maxed out all the credit cards. It's simply the fact.
It is.
And
it is
you just look
at
the situation that this country is in economically, you'd realise that. There's no reason, that as far as I understand it, neither the Liberal Democrats nor the Conservative Party are committed simply to punishing the people of this country, or just love taking away health provisions, or for people with psychiatric problems. The fact is that cuts are necessary, and they have to become somewhere.
He is demonstrating a balanced perspective here with his statement by acknowledging the necessity of the cuts while recognising the broader context of the government's actions.
Quickly, the big society is, I mean, it is a very vague concept to some of us. I'm not sure what it is myself. I don't know if David Cameron's sure, but as I understand it, it's something like the flip side of the small state, which people of my conservative persuasion are very keen on, which is that people shouldn't expect the state to provide them with everything. Which is that if anyone expects anything, they expect it from the state. It's led to a sort of moral obesity in this country. I was speaking to a politician recently.
Bring your remarks to a close, because we're coming to the end of the programme.
He offers a candid reflection on the concept of big society and calls out people's dependency on the state. Wrapping up, Douglas Murray hits the nail on the head by pointing out our society's concerning trend of dependence on the state, leading to what he calls moral obesity. His sharp insight points out the importance of individual responsibility and self-sufficiency. It's refreshing to see him tackle such controversial topics with both courage and clarity.
Oh my gosh, wow. Honestly guys, I have nothing against the Muslims. I honestly have nothing against them. But the fact remains that this whole Hamas situation is just crazy. Like, Hamas is a terrorist group and they keep killing people, doing all of these things, all in the name of their religion. It's crazy. And Muslims immigrating to other countries, especially the Western countries, trying to like take over the countries. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, it just started raining. Trying to take over the countries, it's just pathetic, it's just crazy, you know. And one thing about Douglas Murray is that he always says the truth and he always speaks facts. He's never scared to, you know, say things the way it is. So I feel like Muslims should go back to their country, go to your Islamic country. You have no business being in the Western world. What are your takes on this? What do you guys think about this video? Drop a comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a huge thumbs up and please share this video. And if you're new to the channel, join VeraCity. Hit the subscribe button below, turn on the post notification bell so that you can always be the first person to know whenever a new video drops. And that's guys, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.